Hello.
Hello,
How's it going?
going good. How about you?
I'm all right. Oh, you're in space now. You were in like an apartment or something, but
Yeah, I was. Are you having coffee or tea?
oh yeah, this espresso.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a fan of any particular caffeine drink or not really?
Not really. I I try to drink like warm water or some green tea in the morning if I can, but
Hmm.
most of the day I just try. I can't do it every day.
So what you like get sleep or something?
Uh,
oh no.
and sometimes it's I just don't find time to boil a tea.
Hmm. Yeah, it takes so long to make tea. I don't know. Like I like it, but I rarely do it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Do you know how to play guitar or are you still learning?
I consider myself perpetually still learning. I'm not very good.
So when do you transition from learning to saying to somebody, "Hey, I can play a guitar if you give me a song"?
Well, I mean, I can play a song, but uh, yeah, I don't know. I would have to. It's probably a confidence threshold thing, if I'm honest. That and concentrated time to practice, which is hard to find. Do you have a musical instrument that you like, or?
I I liked keyboard a little while ago, and I am planning to buy one, but I just have not been able to find time to actually like sit and learn. So I'm wondering if I should invest in that instrument right now or just wait for a bit and then plan around it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. Obviously. I know they have like weighted keyboards if you are like looking for a piano-like thing. Um, it probably started 1,000 or something like that. I looked at this like a year or so ago.
Yeah, good one probably starts around like in that range. Yeah, it's true. I'm just so confused at this point, right? Like whenever I have free time, what do I need want to do with it? And there are so many things I want to do. So
That is the problem. Too many things, not enough free time.
yeah. Yeah. So Sartash and Rita might be running a little late. So if you have anything, we can get started.
Well, I see that Alan has a cube management history item. Maybe we
Yeah.
can talk a
Hey
bit
guys,
about
how you
that.
doing? Good
Hey,
to see
Alan.
you again.
Yeah,
Hey,
good to see you.
Hey.
yeah. So wanted to see if anybody, on this call has context of some of the history of the coup management project. I know it was kind of the early or the first iteration of policy engine within Kube from the OPA community, and my like ultimate kind of objective here is to we're leveraging it at the firm and we're obviously keeping up to date with the Kubernetes versions that are being released. But that OPA management project, if you look at the client Go version, it's kind of stuck on version 23. And so I want to take this opportunity to potentially contribute back to that project and get up to just at least supported versions of these, libraries, Golang libraries. And with that being my goal, um, I know this is a gatekeeper call, but and I might have identified one maintainer, but I just want to know like if you guys have history of that project because it doesn't look like it's a true native cloud native, sorry, Kubernetes native controller per se. It's just pulling config maps for the policies and then feeding it to OPA.
Yeah,
Let me
so
know if that's not clear or yeah.
with yeah, with regard to like who maintains it and contributing to it, I will say that no one on this meeting has maintained or I think even contributed to kube management.
Okay.
Probably the right people to reach out to would be anyone who is a maintainer from the company Styra, right?
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I believe they still have maintainership over that repo. If you go to
Okay.
the OPA repository, it will list, there's a maintainers.md file in the root, and it will list the maintainers and which repositories they have maintainership over. I'm not aware of how much or how often kube
Yeah.
management is maintained, to be honest.
It doesn't look like it's a lot. It looks like the last few commits have been more like I think that dependency bot doing some vulnerability stuff more than anything. But okay, I thought maybe just shoot in the dark here and ask on this call.
Yeah, no, for sure. And does that give you enough breadcrumbs to know where
Yeah,
to look next? Or
yeah.
okay,
Yep. Thanks.
good. Yeah. I see your lips moving, Rita, but I don't hear your voice.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay,
You can hear now.
different audio device, different machine. Sorry, I was gonna say, can you talk with, Alan, do you mind sharing what you're using Kube management for? And the reason why I ask is, even on the OPA website, right, it does say for Kubernetes use cases, please use the Gatekeeper project. And Kube management is sort of a legacy
Yeah.
solution. So I'm curious.
Sure. Yeah, Rita. I love to get away from coup management and just be strictly gatekeeper, but the gatekeeper mutation capabilities aren't granular enough for me for our mutation policies that we use in the sense of being able to look at different parts of the request object that coming in and making decisions or conditional logic against different fields that gatekeeper's current mutation assign objects or assign resource allows us to. So we've had to continue to kind of deploy and maintain kube management Rego policies because Rego pretty much won't limit you in what you want to observe and extract in the JSON. But that's the reason why we still unfortunately have to maintain kube management.
Okay, do you mind going into detail what the use case is that Gatekeeper assign cannot address?
Putting me on the spot. So right now, there's one.
Sorry.
We had no, it's okay. When we were doing a migration from when we were going into 125 and they decommissioned the PSP policy, there was a particular use case where um, we were trying to Rita, I think it was around that space, but let me come back to that with the
Okay.
exact. I have it. It's just not in memory right
Yeah,
now.
no worries. Yeah, I mean, and you can always share asyncly on Slack or
And I think I
OpenID.
did. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I did back in the day when we were doing that migration, and somebody answered with the right answer and said, "Yep, right now you can't do that in the current gatekeeper mutations." Let me look that up and that'll
Yeah,
be
for
perfect.
sure. Yeah, the good thing is we also want to know, right? Whether it's could be something that has been resolved since then. We're always adding new features, but also if it's something we're not doing, there's probably a good reason why we're not doing it. So it might be good to discuss the reasons so you know the sort of the potential impact for doing it yourself, right?
Yep.
But uh, also we are keeping track of enhancements or requests from users all the time. So it asks like this helps us prioritize and get a feel of how much impact and enhancement could be. So yeah,
if you're referencing other fields, it's usually due to convergence. And I think we have a doc that explains
that's the issue, right? Convergence. Yeah. I have to look at the document again, but I don't know if I fully understand like the problem of convergence myself personally, but yeah, I think that is what's causing the maybe limitation.
Yeah, I can elaborate a bit on convergence. So just for a simple, I'll give a simple example of how you can get divergence, and then I'll kind of explain why that can be a concern. So let's say you have two mutation policies around image paths, right? And let's say you have one that says if image path doesn't start with the letter A, prepend the letter A. And then you have another mutation policy that says if the image path doesn't start with the letter B, prepend the letter B. Now, if you just look at each policy in isolation, it's fine, right? Like if you just have no A, add A, then you might add A one time, and any future application, you're not going to add A again because it already starts with A. And that's actually an example taken from the official Kubernetes docs around like string modifications, because Kubernetes docs say that mutations should be idempotent. If you take both mutation rules together, though, at first it will prepend A, then the next mutation rule will go, well, that doesn't start with B, so I'm going to prepend B. Then you go back and you look at the first mutation rule again, and it says, well, I should prepend A because it starts with B, and B is not A, right? And it just continues and continues, and the image path gets infinitely long. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you're likely to hit those issues with the Kubernetes control plane. The first is because mutation webhooks can be invoked multiple times per request. That's by design in Kubernetes because they were thinking about edge cases like if you add a sidecar and you have some policy that injects like a monitoring port or something, you want to be sure that the sidecar has that monitoring port added, right? And you don't know what order mutations are applied, so they're just like, no, we'll maybe apply mutations multiple times, right? So even within the bounds of a single request, non-convergence can be an issue. But also the Kubernetes control plane is inherently like this infinite loop, right? Because you have reconcilers that are watching resources and then potentially updating them in response to internal or external events, or just because it's been a certain length of time and everything gets reconciled on a cadence. And when that happens, the request goes through the admission process again, may get re-mutated, right? So there's an infinite loop happening just inherent in Kubernetes. What that means is that you can get just purely divergent state, right? Where some field grows infinitely or some property cycles between being set to true, false, true, false, true, false, right? Which can be operationally concerning. if you want to get a little bit more computer science-y or security risk, you can use the fact that you have an infinite loop and the ability to modify and read state inside that infinite loop to create what's called a Turing machine. And it's possible to use a Turing machine to, you can basically recreate a whole computer with a basic Turing machine. And that means you could do things like hide malicious logic across multiple mutations. And it's not obvious because they only start acting maliciously when they're operating in tandem with each other. More practically speaking, one issue, the issue I would most predict to happen would be problems with management at scale. So when you have larger organizations and you have multiple teams that have opinions about the admission process and the control plane, about mutation, right? Let's say you have some like billing conformance team that requires like adding owner labels or whatever. And you have another security team that's setting like prefixes or security context values, excuse me, or something like that. There's risk that these two teams might write mutations that do not play nicely together, right? Either they directly compete with each other, or they combine in the way I was talking about earlier, where they create this kind of like infinite recursion where it doesn't converge on a single final value, but rather something like grows indefinitely or oscillates between true, false, true, false. And so you wind up in a place where even though each team itself is, its code looks reasonable when combined, it's not reasonable. And that's kind of compounded by Kubernetes itself is eventually consistent, right? So if you apply a bunch of mutation policies to a cluster, they may not all be ingested at the same time. So you also have to think about like, okay, what if only a subset of policies are ingested and you don't know which subset? Sorry, that's pretty technical, but does that
Listen,
make...
yeah, Max, I appreciate you kind of elaborating on that. Diversions and conversions, it's very helpful. And so I think I'm thinking with kube management and Rego, we have that control to avoid that diversions, right? In the sense that the way you write the policy in Rego can allow it to be idempotent and
Yeah.
make sure you.
I mean, yes and no. Like mutation is kind of inherently problematic in Kubernetes, in my opinion, because you can have multiple mutation webhooks, right? And so in order to guarantee convergence, you really need to have control over the entire stack of mutation webhooks and how they interact and be aware of those interactions. Yes, Rego does give you control. And if you assume that your only mutation webhook is your Rego authored one, then you could look at the totality of your Rego code and say, well, this looks safe. I do think also there is a sort of socialization aspect here, where Rego's hard to write relative to something that's more like high level declarative, right? You're actually writing the logic, and so it's a bit more clear that there's some things you should be like aware of and responsible for around writing that code, right? Whereas if you have stuff that's more out of the box specifications, right, that people just kind of like make declarations of, oh, I want to like set this field and that field and just kind of like throw it over the wall, and we make it easy to combine all of these declarations, then those gotchas may be more hidden, right? And because it's easier to write a bunch of mutation policies,
Yeah.
you increase the risk that users will hit the negative repercussions.
And users don't have the visibility to what else is on the cluster, right? So they may not be aware that there are other things that could be impacting the same resource. But yeah, Alan, I just want to make sure, maybe when you get a chance later, if you could share the specific ask, that would be helpful. Because again, we've added a bunch of stuff to mutation since few releases ago. So chances are maybe what you need is already there. I don't know. I just don't want you to leave with, oh, because this convergence problem, Gatekeeper cannot be used for my use case, right? So let's deeper on your use case.
I love that. Maybe the next community call, I'll come with that specific use case, and you can try to see if it's available now or not.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and maybe feel free to open an issue so we can track it. I don't want to lose that history. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One other thing I will mention, I don't know what the state of this is, but core Kubernetes itself was looking to have like a validating admission policy kind of equivalent for mutation. Again, I haven't checked on the status of this for a while.
Cool.
But one thing that I was kind of hoping for is to get some signal from core Kubernetes about how they feel about some of these edge cases and risks. And also because mutation is really an admission level thing, you will get more accurate enforcement if it's done by the API server. So it may be a better fit anyway, right? Because you remove that risk of the webhook server being down and getting inconsistently applied mutations.
Got it. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Should we go to the next topic? When do we want to cut RC? I think the only pending thing, so there's a bunch of PRs that's pending for another approval. I've gone through most of them. So hopefully it's nothing big. So if it's nothing big, should we plan for maybe cutting an RC Monday? Technically today is supposed to be release date, but we're a bit behind.
Yeah, I could hopefully get through the backlog of reviews today.
Nice.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Do we want to delay it like a week or so?
Well, Monday. Or you're saying next Wednesday?
Yeah. I mean, it could be whenever we want, basically.
Sure, let's say next week then, right? Just in case there's any like last minute things. Sounds good.
So on that point, should I just merge the frameworks PR and then bring that changes to the one in Gatekeeper for final reviews?
Yes.
Okay. And are we good with I think that PR also upgrades OPA version, right? So we're good
Yes.
with that.
Yeah, you should bring in all the changes from framework.
There is a new OPA version. Do you want to update or wait?
Is it just like 66 to 67?
67, I think.
Because the framework currently is 66, right?
Yeah, I think they just released it like a week ago. Yeah, 67.
Maybe?
I don't see anything like super urgent. There is one breaking change, but I don't think that is relevant to us. This is mostly looks like they're on their side for HTTP server. Yeah, I don't see like CV fixes or anything like that. That might be important, but yeah, I'm okay to go as is.
Okay. Okay, well, if that's the case, maybe just bump it then. Jay, if you're working on that, maybe you can do the
Yeah.
bump. But as a separate PR, that way we
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then we said let's hold on to Kate's 130 bump, so let's not merge that one until the next release.
Okay.
Because that's going to require a lot more changes in Gatekeeper.
Yeah,
Oh,
we don't
no.
have time, we don't have time for a lot of changes right now, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometime next week, hopefully before the next community call. All right, any other topic? Do we want to do triage?
Oh, I think that was meant for August 7, I think.
yeah. That was after we are done with the release, but
Yeah, so we can do it now if you want, but
yeah.
this was after the release date to get the milestones.
Sure. I'm okay either way.
I'll
Or if people need time to review, want to use this time to review things, that's also okay.
yeah, I think that would be great.
What do you guys prefer?
I could use time.
Okay, cool. I reviewed everything, so I'm good. But all jokes aside, yeah, like please use this time to review instead of working on something else. Just kidding. I do that a lot, so. Cool. Well, good work on all the PR, Jay. I know it's a lot of back and forth, not easy, but those are pretty critical changes. So don't want to break anybody.
Yeah. Thanks.
But
I
is there?
just wish I could have done it a lot sooner there to avoid this.
Yeah, we could have helped prioritize the review as well, but you know, yeah, it's hard.
I just wanted to say, Jay, I saw your link, and it is, I haven't read it completely, but I do now that path test part of the assign object does remind me of the issue, and it is related. So I can maybe add to this with my specific use case, but this is it for sure. Thanks.
Oh, cool. Uh,
All right, folks, I have to drop. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Then let's drop for review PR reviews. All right. Thank you. Bye.
bye.
Yep.